Does God hear? And we can go ahead and answer that question. God hears. He does, in fact, hear. Let's begin in verse 77. And there may be times in your life, there were times, even with the very righteous, such as David, but not limited to him, such as David, in wondering if God or one of the prophets, other prophets, is God hearing? How long will He stand far away from us? When will He answer us? So Psalm 77, we begin there. Psalm 77, I cry aloud to God, and He will hear me. All right, this is written according to the heading in all this. This is a psalm of Asaph. Asaph was a prophet, and he was also a singer. And we can see him in particular in 1 Chronicles 15:19. We also see Jeduthun. Well, he was also a singer, a harpist, and also a prophet, 1 Corinthians 25:3. But the psalm is written by Asaph. I cried aloud to God, and He will hear me. In the day of my trouble, I seek the Lord. In the night, my hand is stretched out without wearying. Look at these next words. My soul refuses to be comforted. What is expressed here by Asaph is something that occurs. It occurs, and every now and then we talk about it. But it is an occurrence that happens, of where something bad is in our life and we just do not have any kind of mental rest at all. It is on our minds, and that is a natural thing. We may lose sleep. That is a natural thing. It is not necessarily a lack of faith. Now, someone can have a lack of faith and worry all over the place. But it's not a lack of faith to have a deep concern about something, knowing full well that God's going to take care of it, but the question would be when and how and what's going to occur on the other side. It can be a frightening thing that you don't know how your life is going to be affected by this. Your life may be coming to an end. Your life may be completely changed in that someone that you love, someone very dear to you, it may all be over with them. Things can occur. And notice, my soul refuses to be comforted. It's just not. With all the faith in the world, still there is emotional pressure from troubles. Emotional pressure from trials. And if there were no pressures at all from trials, it's not much of a trial. That's just the way it is. If it's not something that does put you to the test and you are stretched to what you think is your breaking point, and God's not going to take you to your breaking point. You can break and just opt that that's what you're going to do. But He's not going to take you there. He's not going to do it. We are stronger than we think, especially when we have help. Especially when we have help. But my soul refuses to be comforted. God's hearing, and He knows it, but He's just not comforted by it. When I remember God, I moan. When I meditate, my spirit faints. It's just a very difficult time. Now, verse 4, you hold my eyelids open. I am so troubled that I cannot speak. I consider the days of old, the years long ago. Now notice what the psalmist does, what Asaph does. Here is remembering what God has done in the past. All right, worried about what God is going to do in the present that is a problem, okay? Because we don't know what God's going to do in the present. But whatever it is, it's going to be right. Even if it's not exactly what we would have chosen, it's going to be right. We don't get our way all the time. But we can see His actions in the past, and we can learn from that. We can learn from that. I consider the days of old, the years long ago. Verse 6, I said, let me remember my song in the night. Let me meditate in my heart. Then my spirit made a diligent search. Will the Lord spurn forever and never again be favorable? Has His steadfast love forever ceased? Good questions, and the questions that one may have going through grief, going through some kind of problems. Are His promises at an end for all time? And the answer to that is, of course, no. His love has not ceased. That is no. Has He spurned forever? No. And never again be favorable? Well, no. Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has His anger shut up His compassion? Then I said, I will appeal to this, to the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. He goes back to thinking about the deeds of the Lord. Now, He's already said, and He will hear me. All right, that's verse 1. And He will hear me. But for the sake of His own peace, for the sake of being reassured and encouraged, I remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I remember your wonders of old. I will ponder all your works and meditate on your mighty deeds. Your way, O God, is holy. What God is great like our God? Well, none. You are the God who works wonders. You have made known your might among the peoples. You, with your arm, redeemed your people, the children of Jacob and Joseph. That is a powerful arm. He redeems them. And He's gone beyond Jacob and Joseph to redeem the entire world. There is this redemptive power of the sacrifice of the Lamb of God, the Christ. That is, it covers all sins of all peoples, but it requires all peoples to come to Christ. Verse 16, when the waters saw you, O God. Now watch what's here, because this is the action of God. In verse 16, beginning in verse 16, we can see this as literal, and it could be taken literal. This could be seen as poetic and figurative, and it could be that as well. But I want you to see some things when we get to the end of this little section. When the waters saw you, O God, when the waters saw you, they were afraid indeed. The deep trembled. The clouds poured out water. The skies gave forth thunder. Your arrows flashed on every side. The crash of your thunder was in the whirlwind. Your lightnings lighted up the world. The earth trembled and shook. Your way was through the sea. Your paths through the great waters. Notice what it says next. Yet your footprints were unseen. We end this in verse 20. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Okay. Now, he is remembering the days of old. And yes, he is speaking concerning what occurred in the wilderness, what occurred at various points in time, just kind of summing them all up with what occurred there in the wilderness wanderings and taking Israel out of Egypt, and with Moses and Aaron. But I want you to see these words, yet your footprints were unseen. Never saw God in this. Now, we can look at this, and I know from my own experiences of something occurring, and we all pray for that something. We all pray for it. For that something to resolve one way or another, for that problem to just be taken care of and now the thing of the past. And going through difficult times like this. And then suddenly it occurs. Maybe not in our timeline. What we would want is just instantaneous. but it's in God's timeline as He sees fit. And He takes care of us. But there's no footprint to it. And I think I said this not too long ago about having prayed for certain things, and those certain things suddenly resolved, and in my hard-headedness not really catch on until a little bit later that those were answered prayers. That was an answered prayer. God did that, and He did that because we were praying for that. How did He do it? And we may have no idea how He did it. Not that it was miraculous, but whatever it was, that whatever troubles were just lapping in like waves, whatever they were, they stopped. And God stopped them. And where are His footprints? Well, there are no footprints. But you can know He did it. You can know it. You can know that He was the one. When He parted the Red Sea, they could not see God. They could just know that's the power of God. And you've got a group of people at least that they're going into the Red Sea on dry ground and not really thinking about what they're doing. Not really thinking about it. And the sea collapses right on top of them. And it would be tons of water that come pouring right on top. And there's no escaping that. There's no swimming to the top. You're at the bottom of the sea, and with tons of water and instant darkness underneath there. And but where was God seen? He's seen in the action, seen in the result. But He's just like with all creation, we can see the result without seeing the Creator. We can see the result of answered prayers without seeing the Creator. Now, I want us to go to Psalm 22, because here, just in this idea of that asking, has God stopped listening? Has God abandoned us? Has His love actually stopped? And here it's Psalm 22. Psalm 22 verse 1 is precisely what Jesus quotes from the cross. And of course, Psalm 22, as we have said before, Psalm 22 is like the one who's on the cross wrote this, though it would be physically impossible for anyone on a cross to write this. You can't. You're nailed to the cross. But this is written hundreds of years beforehand, and this is from a first-person perspective of being on the cross and what is occurring there and the feeling there. And the words here begin with, my God, why have you forsaken me?" That is a genuine feeling. Why are you so far from saving me from the words of my groaning? So this is from the Christ Himself. This is from the Son of God Himself, who truly felt this way. Now, He knew what was going to happen. He knew what He was doing and why He was doing it, but it still bore pain, and it still was harsh emotionally. This, what Satan did to the Christ, is Satan at his worst. Whatever we may look at concerning Job is nothing compared to what happened to the Christ. It's nothing. As bad as that was, it's nothing when compared to the Christ. And what do I mean by that? Satan did what he was allowed to do there in the book of Job, but with the Christ, all right, Job is not the Christ. With the Christ, he's going to take it as far as he can. It's not enough to just harm him. It's not enough to kill him. It's not enough to kill him in an excruciating, humiliating exhibition. It's not enough. His spirit must be broken. That would be it. He must be broken emotionally. He must be broken, his soul just shattered. That's what Satan wanted. And in all this are the words, my God, why have you forsaken me? That even the Christ can feel that way, though Christ has not abandoned any of us. He's not abandoned any of us. And all we have to do is look at verse 24, and we can see that God didn't abandon him. He didn't forsake him. For he has not despised, he has not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, and he has not hidden his face from him, but was heard when he cried to him. All right, who's the him? Well, it's the Christ crying to God. That's what it's about. That's what this is about. And that, yes, God on the cross can feel the pain and feel that the agonizing of your, just deep inside your soul. The night before, what's he doing? He's praying fervently with extraordinary anguish. He is sweating like very few ever would. He is under extraordinary pressure, and he is calling, asking that this cup be taken away. What's the cup? Everything leading up to the cross and the cross itself. That's what he's asking, that it be taken away. But nevertheless, not my will, but your will. That is the way he always concludes in it. That's the way because it's not what he wants, it's what is necessary, what God actually wants in this. Let's go to Psalm 34. This is of David. This is David when he changed his behavior before Abimelech so that he drove him out and he went his way. That is when David pretended that he was a madman. He pretended like he was insane, and you have the king there in among the Philistines saying, "Oh, what part do I have to do with this madman? Get him out of here before he drools on everything. I mean, literally, just get him out of here." This is what David says. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul makes its boast in the Lord. Let the humble hear and be glad. Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. And this was a point of time when there was a lot of things to be fearful of. All right, he can't stay at home. He would be killed by Saul. He's got to be on the run. Well, you go to the Philistines. Now that's a risky business, because what did David do? They know who David is because they know who Goliath was and who killed him. All right, this is no secret. And they know also who's been heading up Saul's army, or at least a portion of that army, and going after the Philistines. This is nothing new. But now they know he's running away from Saul, and he's now in there's very few places he can go where he's not in danger. Very few places. Go into a village, will that village notify Saul? Some of them do. Some of them do. Some of them, of where they've seen David go to a certain place, they go and notify Saul, thinking perhaps that they're going to get a reward. I don't know what it might be, but some of them do, and it was a very difficult time for him. Verse 4 again, I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look on him are radiant. That is, look to God. Those who look to him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fears him and delivers them. Now, David is saying that. David is saying that as someone who's experienced it and notices. Because there are folks, as I just described concerning myself, folks that God has done something very good for them. He has spared them. He has protected them. He has helped them, but they don't consider it at all. They don't consider it at all. It was a matter of luck. It was a matter of their own skill. It was a matter of something else. And they don't consider who might have been behind it, and that it was God who did it. Tell you a quick story. Is years ago, a friend and myself, we were at a particular restaurant, and for some reason the owner came out and began talking to us, and he spoke about that of having a car trouble, or actually he was in a truck, that he had a problem on an interstate, and it happened to be in Knoxville, and of course he had all this equipment in the restaurant equipment in the back, and he was having to take care of some things back there, and this semi came so close to him that he had taken some equipment off, that it crushed the equipment, but he was left alive. And he said, God spared me that day. And my friend afterwards said, what did you think about that? I said, if he gives God the glory, who am I to say he can't do it? Who am I to say God wasn't involved in that? That God didn't spare his life for a very good reason. That God will only spare the lives of those who are obedient to him. If that were the case, none of us could ever be obedient to him, because our lives wouldn't be spared to that point. That he is active, and if someone wants to give glory to God, as long as it's something that is, truly something that God would do, not that, God let me steal $1 million. No, God is not going to be responsible for that. But if somebody's glorifying God, who am I to say God wasn't behind that at all? Now, verse 8, O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Whatever the troubles. David had troubles. And compared to the next king, which was Solomon, Solomon didn't have near the troubles that David did. Now, Solomon being king would have had troubles, but not near what David had. That David had trouble after Saul's still king, knowing David's going to be the next king. He has Saul to worry with. Then after Saul, he has others to worry with, including his own son, Absalom. He has numerous things that occur through his life. And he's the one saying, blessed is the man who takes refuge in him, in God. Verse 9, O fear the Lord, you his saints, for those who fear him have no lack. The young lions suffer want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. And it's, let's just discuss that for a second. Lack no good thing. What would that look like? Let's just ask the question. If the Lord sees to it that you lack no good thing, what would that look like? Would that look like you would be living in a palace with maids and butlers and servants? Would it look like that? And constant meals beyond measure, is that what it would look like? Would it look like you get to do whatever it is that you want to do, if it is whatever it happens to be? Is that what it would look like? Or does it look like something else? Does it look like someone is taking care of you? Just taking care of you. You have what you need. You've made it to the next day, and He will take care of you again. He will take care of you and keep you. You may not be the wealthiest person, and you may not need to be, but God takes care of us all. Come, O children, Listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. What man is there who desires life and loves many days that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous, and His ears toward their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. Just like we read not too long ago from Proverbs, the names of the wicked will rot. That's harsh language. Cut off the memory of them from the earth, because His face is against those who are evil. When the righteous cry, that's verse 17, when they cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. You know, that sounds an awful lot like the one in Psalm 22. It sounds an awful lot like him. The one who is bruised or crushed for our sakes. By His stripes we are healed. He takes our transgressions. He's able to do that. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. Notice there is another assurance in this. And we may not see it as good news. Many are the afflictions of the righteous. God did not say we would have no trouble. He never said that. Matter of fact, Christ says the opposite. But also that the Lord delivers him out of them all. Verse 20, He keeps all his bones, none of them is broken. Well, John 19:36 states that concerning the Christ. Affliction will slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems the life of His servants. None of those who take refuge in Him will be condemned. Well, that is extremely comforting news. That is extraordinary news. Now, let's go to Psalm 145, and we begin in verse 18. All of these are matters of fact and matters of encouragement. That every single one of us goes through afflictions of some sort, trials of some sort, problems, troubles, afflictions, grief. All of us, but God is always with us. Psalm 145, verse 18. The Lord is near to all who call on Him, to all who call on Him in truth. Notice, all who call on Him in truth. There's a little stipulation here. He fulfills the desires of those who fear Him. He also hears their cry, and saves them. The Lord preserves all who love Him, but all the wicked He destroys. The wicked will be destroyed. And God also made mention in the book of Micah that you have the wicked that have become so wicked, so rebellious, that the time will come, He'll not listen to their cry. He'll not listen to them at all. It's too late. When the floods came in Genesis chapter 6, when it was realized by the world that they were dying by massive amounts of water, they were going to be drowned out. You think there weren't cries to God? But it's too late then. It's too late. When Sodom is being destroyed in Genesis chapter 19, when the city is being bombarded by fire and brimstone, do you think that there weren't some there crying out for the mercy of God? But it's too late then. It's too late. That door, that avenue is closed. It's the time for that to have occurred is done. It's done. But for the righteous, God is always there for us. For the righteous, God always hears, and you don't necessarily see His footsteps when He solves the problem. But when He answers, and He will, and the answer may be no, but when He answers, then He has done what He is going to do. He has done what He is going to do, and we can see His workings. And know this, when God says no, it's for a good reason, and it will always have love in it, love for us and love for others. There'll always be compassion to it, and it can be the very best thing that happened to us. Years ago, I don't think I've ever shared this story. Years ago, something in my world anyway was broken apart. I was young, and it was broken apart. And it looked like there was it just topsy-turvy. There was no up, there's no down. And in looking back, I saw that was the best thing that could have happened to me. It was. And in that period of time, God took care of all of us that were involved in it. God took care of all of it. But it was the best thing that could have happened. And from it, greater things occurred because of it. And yes, I had to mature in that. And sometimes that's exactly what God wants. This evening, we need to look at our lives. God takes care of us, and we can take comfort in that. That whatever shows up next, whatever problem shows up next, God is there, and He will take care of us. And I can just think of myself as being incredibly minute. But God loves even me. And just with the entire population of the earth, I'm just one of billions. But He still loves me. And you are one of billions. And He loves you. And He loves all of us. And He wants what is best for all of us. We ask this evening that we look at our lives. Let us take strength to help us day by day. And if you need the prayers of the congregation, if we can help you in any way, we ask that you come as we stand and sing.